Hi there and welcome to this video. I know it's challenging times in many countries and for many of us all, but I hope you're well and keeping safe in these challenging times, as I say, around the Corona-19 virus, the concepts of self-isolation, physical distancing, social distancing, and all the challenges that go with that. Well, photography is good for the spirit, the physical and the mental health. No matter whether you're a professional photographer, it's an occupation for you, or whether it's a pastime. It's a creative activity in many ways, and it requires a level of skill, irrespective whether you're using a smartphone or a modern mirrorless camera like the Z series. It requires skills in the artistic space of composition. It requires technical skills for capturing the images, post-processing the images, and sharing the images. It's also great for exercise and getting you out and about and interacting with the wider environment, even if you can't interact with other people because of physical or social distancing or self-isolation. It's interesting here in the UK, we're seeing some of the language moving from social distancing to physical distancing, because actually what's needed is keeping physical distance, but we as human beings really need to keep interacting and having some kind of social interaction in a safe way. And it's interesting to see that language changing here. It's really important to remember that as photographers, we are part of a wider community. We do have things in common and we can continue to share those, even if we can't interact in a physical manner in the way we're perhaps used to. Luckily, photography and videography is something that we can do irrespective of the need for physical distancing. So I've been thinking, how can we use this period of changing lifestyle to come out with benefits from a photographic videography perspective? So the first opportunity I see is about upskilling. Photography and videography is something where, as a skill set, we'll probably never get to the destination. Innovation keeps moving what the art of the possible is, and requiring us as photographers, videographers to keep upskilling. So the first approach that I'm looking at is there an opportunity for us to challenge ourselves to think about how we're using the gear we have? So over the last year, I've been creating 2-minute tip videos around the Z series cameras. They're predominantly around the Z6 and 7 cameras. However, most of the functionality is also in the Z50. It's also, a lot of it is relevant to the D850 and the D780. So maybe use this time to think about different scenarios. With the functionality built into modern cameras, there's often multiple ways of getting a great image in a particular scenario. Yet, quite often as photographers, we get into a bit of a rut of how we approach things. And this might be an opportunity to look at a few common scenarios for you and think about, are there different combinations of functionality to achieve the same image quality? And you may find there are better ways of doing it rather than the way you've done it in the past. So I'll put a link above to a playlist which has all of the 2-minute tip videos in it. It may be that you've watched some of them but you've missed some of them, so use this opportunity to challenge yourself. Are you getting the most out of the gear you've got? Extrapolating up from the 2-minute tip videos, one of the things I like about YouTube is it's a great source of learning. It's a great way that people are sharing videos of what they're learning, top tips, different ways of approaching things. And therefore, what I tend to do is I'll put into search what I'm looking for. I'll find a video, perhaps the first one doesn't quite address what I'm looking for, and I'll move on to another one. When you find a video that solves a particular problem, do look at the suggested videos that YouTube throws up down the side. It's amazing where sometimes YouTube will take you in a different direction that you perhaps would have done yourself, and it'll open up so many different opportunities for learning. So do spend a bit more time on YouTube and see what you can find, what you can learn. If we extrapolate a bit further, quite often we will have purchased, as photographers, tutorials or sets of lessons from different photographers. either online or you've downloaded. You've perhaps used them once and then they're on your hard drive somewhere. It's probably worth searching them out, digging them out, and perhaps taking a second watch of them. See if you can learn something different. Reuse that content you've already paid for. Equally, a number of photographers who've got online courses are in these difficult times offering discounts or even free versions. I noticed Jared Polin has put up one of his tutorials for free, and that's great as a community, people rallying round. So do use those opportunities, support people who are putting out their courses that otherwise would be charged for, that are discounted or free. Equally, it's not just about upskilling ourselves. One of the best ways of learning is actually teaching someone else. So maybe you've got someone in your family who's trying to get into photography or videography that you could help. It may be that you can use video conferencing such as Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp to interact with them. Or you could throw down, email them some challenges, get them to email you back their images, and you could coach or tutor them. And quite often what you find is there's a reverse tutoring that goes on by the other person challenging you or asking you why you're saying that. It gets you thinking about how you approach photography and videography, and therefore you learn as much as you teach them. So it's a great opportunity with a bit more time and perhaps a different pacing of life for a period for us to invest a bit more back into the community. That's all passive upskilling, as I would term it, and sometimes a bit of passive upskilling, but then married with active upskilling. So practicing new techniques is really important. Even when we're having to self-isolate or create some physical spacing, it's possible to do so much photography either in and around your house or your apartment, or possibly within the boundaries of your house or apartment. You've got a garden or a yard that you can get out into and get a bit of fresh air, a bit of sunshine. It lifts the spirit. Equally, it may be possible to get outside of the house, outside of your apartment, and to go out perhaps on a walk, get some exercise. I'm not suggesting if you're self-isolating that's a good idea. Don't put yourself or other people at risk. But do think about, how physical distancing doesn't mean that you can't get out and interact with the wider environment. And having photography as a purpose for that can be a great way of doing that. Getting out and about and taking some images that you can then bring back in and practice your post-production on is a really good opportunity. Whether it's in the house, in your apartment or outside, do think about picking a theme, giving yourself some purpose. That theme could be about what you're shooting. It could be what gear you're using, a particular lens that you haven't used for a while. It could be you're creating a bit of a story you want to tell through 3 or 5 images. So do think about a theme, do give yourself some purpose. Do try new techniques, whether that's the settings in your camera as we talked about with the 2-minute tips, whether it's about using different functionality, doing a time lapse, or perhaps even trying video if you haven't tried video. Equally, it can be about post-processing. It could be that you've already got some images you've captured if you can't get outside your house, and you've got them in a particular style, a colour image, but perhaps you want to see if you can convert them to black and white. Try different processing techniques on them. A lot of the software we use that we've got on our laptops or our computers, we perhaps use once or twice, but we don't use it as much as we could. See what functionality is built into that, and can you use it in a different way? I've done a few videos on the use of Lightroom, for example, to create panoramas. Do you have some images that you could use and see how panoramas work for you? Equally, a lot of the software that's available that you can download comes with a trial period. Maybe now is a good opportunity to try some of these different packages that are out there during a trial period. If at the end of the trial period you've really gelled with it and you find it really useful, then you can buy a license to it. Innovation is a great part of photography, and I'm sure a lot of the companies in the photography space are going to go through quite a tough time, like other sectors, over the coming months and years, and therefore supporting the photography ecosystem is really important as a community. So we've talked about upskilling, both passive and active. Equally, giving ourselves purpose is important, as I've spoken about, and therefore thinking about how you can share your images or your videos is a great opportunity. You may already be a member of 500px, Instagram, YouTube, but if you're not, think about how those kind of channels might give you a creative outlet and, be a more active part of the community. I started this YouTube channel about a year ago, really to push me and my video capture and processing capabilities to another level. Is now the right time for you to think about creating a YouTube channel? If you're using, or you're thinking of starting using some of these channels, whether it's 500px, Instagram, YouTube, Flickr, do put a link to your portfolio in the comments below. It'd be great to see what you're doing and you're sharing. We do have a collective interest as photographers and videographers. We are a community, so let's leverage it, and hopefully we can come out of this challenging period stronger as a community. As I say, do put links to your portfolios in the comments below. I hope you're all well, and please do keep safe in these challenging times, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video.